Hi, welcome for our RTL online trainings and placements in RTL Cloud Technologies. So today in this session, we are going to discuss about one real-time assignment. Generally, the organizations wants to have a regular business flow. Now the requirement is we would like to hire a new employee. Means the employee should be associated with some so-and-so legal entity and so-and-so business unit. Once we hire an employee, then we would like to go for generate or raise the invoice for supplier, and then we are going to specify the supplier details here. Means you are supposed to create a new supplier, and after that we have to go for raise the invoice for supplier and generate accounting entries for the invoice. After that, we need to transfer accounts to GL. Then we would like to go for make the payment for the supplier in two installments. In two installments, we would like to make the payments to supplier. So this is about how we are going to generate. It's a basic business flow for account payables model. Now the organization wants to create a supplier and create an employee. An employee is going to log in and is going to create a supplier. After that, we want to raise an invoice, and then payment will be done in two installments. Let's say $1,000 is the bill which we have received from supplier, that we want to pay in two installments, $700 once and $300 once. And both invoice accounts and payment accounts we want to transfer to GL, and we would like to view those accounts in general ledger. Okay, so that's the business process we wanted to do that here. So here definitely we have to talk with first which legal entity we are using, nothing but a company, and which business unit we are using, US1 business unit. So there's two organizations we are going to use. US1 legal entity and US1 business. 1 minute. Yeah. So we are going to hire an employee first for US1 legal entity and then US1 business unit. We are going to hire an employee. Second, we are going to add user account because employees should log into the applications, right? So we are going to create a user account. Third one, we are going to add roles because we want to create a supplier. If you want to create a supplier, we need a roles. Okay. And then we have to go for add employee as a buyer. Because if you are a buyer, then only you can go for add the supplier site. If you are a buyer, then you can go for add supplier site. Otherwise, you cannot do that. Okay. Then once supplier is ready, then we can go for add account payables roles to the user. And then we are going to create invoice and invoice accounts, accounting entries. And then we are going to have the payments, multiple payments we are going to perform and create payment accounting entries. And then we are going to transfer to GL. And finally, we want to view these accounts in GL. It means we are going to cover two modules here, account payables and general ledger, both the things this. And in fact, we can say that this is what our assignment we have done. And generally this, if you are already completed account payables and general ledger module, then you can do this particular assignment. So I'm going to show you how this assignment will be done in a standard procedure. Okay. So let's log into the applications, Fusion applications. And this is what the cloud applications. Let me just log out from here, from the current user, and log in again. So we'll be getting the URL from the client. And then we are going to log in. Credentials initially provided by the client here. We'll log into the applications. In Fusion applications, once we log in, there will be two menus. One is the user menu, another one is navigator menu. User menu will find in the right side and navigator menu will find in the left side. So user menu will be used to perform the setups. This user menu will be used to perform the setups here. And navigator menu will be using to perform the transactions. What is meant by setup? What is meant by transaction? Setup is done by the software engineers, IT consultant. We are a software engineer. We are a functional consultant. We'll do the setups. Then who will use the transactions? That is client employees. Client employees will perform the transactions. For example, you go to shopping and you buy a particular shirt. Then you will ask for the bill, right? So then the employee who is there in the shop, what he will do is he'll take that particular item name and quantity, cost, and he'll go for enter the details. Means he will enter the transaction and he'll take the printout and he will give it us. That's a transaction. So they are end users. They are end users. So when they want to perform the transactions, perform the sections with security, then we have to do the setups. If we do that setups, then only they can perform the transactions. Otherwise, they cannot perform the transactions. Right. So what we are going to do is now, first we are going to do the setups. And then we are also going to do the transaction, because before we deliver this product to the client, first we have to test it, whether your setups are working or not. Multiple times we have to test with different scenarios, different business values, different values we have to test. Right now, we are going to take one scenario here, whatever the payable scenario, and we are going to do the setups, and then we are going to perform the transactions here. Up to this, it comes under setups up, and this comes as a transactions. So even though we are not an end user, but before we deliver the product to the client, we are supposed to test those things. Okay. The first setup, what I'm going to show you is how to hire an employee. Obviously, when you are hiring an employee, let's say if one of your friends says that I got a job, the first question we will ask them, which company? And the second question is which branch? Is it Hyderabad or Bangalore? If they have multiple branches in Hyderabad, which branch? Like that, right? The same way, the moment when you try to hire an employee in the system, it will ask you which company you are hiring an employee and which branch you are hiring an employee. In our language, we'll call it as a company and branch. When it comes for Fusion ERP, we call it as a legal entity and business unit. Legal entity is nothing but a company. Business unit is nothing but a branch. Obviously, when you are implementing this product to the client, we'll ask our client, what is your company name, registered name, and how many branches, branch name, branch address, who is the head for the branch, how many departments are there. This is all we are going to configure. But for this particular real-time exercise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the existing legal entity and existing business unit called US1. Okay, fine. Let's go to start the setups. What is the first setup we want to do? We wanted to perform hiring an employee. That is one of the simple setup. Go to user menu, setup and maintenance. Setup and maintenance. This environment, we call it as FSM environment, stands for Functional Setup Manager. FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. In this environment only, we are going to do the setups. Now, the system is asking, you are doing the setups for financials, or you are doing it for human capital management, or you are doing it for supply chain management, or procurement, or project portfolio, or public sector, or student management. For which domain you are doing the setups. Now we are working with financials, right? Let me go for financials. And once we select the financials, how to hire an employee, there is a task called manage users. Go to the task called manage users here, and we'll hire an employee here. Okay, so manage users is nothing but hiring an employee. Hiring employee, user account, role, security. It's a common topic for all the modules. It's not specific to a particular module. It's a very common topic. It means it's a global concept, right? So we are hiring an employee here, and now we are going to create the transaction here. Excuse me. Now we are going to hire an employee. While hiring employee details, system will ask us which legal entity and which business unit. I'm mentioning personal details here, first name and last name. Let's say Kiran Kumar. Email ID kiran.kumar@gmail.com. When he has joined in the company, 1st January 23. What is the username you would like to have, Mr. Kiran? That's the user account. He's one of the employee for the company. The moment when we choose person type as employee, system will ask immediately for which legal entity he is an employee and for which business unit he is an employee. The system will ask us here. You can see it's mandatory. Star mark is nothing but it's a mandatory field. It's a mandatory field. We are going to specify it's for US1 business unit and for US1 business unit and US1 legal entity. It's got struck up. Here we'll specify which company you are hiring an employee for US1 legal entity and for US1 business unit. So we have completed successfully first setup, saying that how to hire an employee and how to create a user account also. What is the user account we given? Kiran. That's the username. And we are going to reset the password in the next step. And we said that Kiran is working for so-and-so company and so-and-so business unit. That is the full name and email date. And you can, of course, specify the joining date is today or, of course, whatever the old date we have, that also we can go for specify here. Right. Now, hiring employee is completed. For that employee, we also mentioned I want user account as Kiran, but we wanted to reset that. And we want to add the roles to that particular user. So roles are very important in Fusion applications because the complete security will be applied from the roles only. For every module, there will be 5 to 6 roles. For example, if we talk about financials module, every module has got 5 to 6 roles. We have to be very clear about that roles. And we have to understand the functionality of that roles and when we have to use that roles. Obviously, when we are working in the project, we have to customize those roles according to the requirement. If the requirement is completely new, we have to create a new roles. We call it as custom roles. Custom is nothing but a new roles. Okay. So at this point of time, the requirement is we want to create a supplier. If you want to create a supplier, which role is required for employee? Supplier manager. There is a role called supplier manager that we have to use. Okay. So by using this supplier manager role, we can go for create a supplier. Let's go to the task here. Navigator. If we want to work with the users, means if I want to update the user details on or add some other information to the user, then we have to go to security console. Go to tools menu, security console, right? Now we are entering into the security console environment. In security console, we'll be able to perform user management as well as the role management. Go to the tab called users. We don't require the roles tab right now because we are not going to create the role or we are not going to customize the role. At this point of time, we are using the built-in role as it is. Let's go to the tab called users. And we have already created a user name also for our employee. What's the username we given? Kiran. That's the name of the username we have specified for our employee. Let's search for that. Okay, so employee account looks like it's not generated. Let's go back. Go back to enterprise setup. There is one setup in human capital management. Maybe they have disabled user account creation. Let me cross check once. Enterprise HCM information. Now we can see that here user account generation has been disabled. That's the reason our user account is not created. Let me just go for correction this information. We are trying to update the details here. Now I'm going to specify, I want to generate the user account for both person and party users. Party user means suppliers and customers also. Obviously, it's required. Sometimes supplier wants to log in and cross-check their payments information, even customers also. So we'll set up that here. So now this has been done. That's done successfully. Now we'll go ahead with the user account generation. I'll go to manage users account setup here. Yeah, showing that manage users task is not available here because we are in wrong offerings. We are not in financials. Select financials. And search for the task here. Go to manage users. And we can search for an employee, whatever we have created earlier. This is Kiran Kumar. Now see the user details, it's been disabled. No issue. What we'll do is this employee is there, right? For this employee, we can create a user account directly over there. Directly we'll go to security console. We can also specify at the time of hiring here. Otherwise, in security console itself, we can create a user account, attach this employee to that particular user account. In both the ways, we can do it. Let's go to security console here. Create user account. I'm going to specify associated person type, nothing but employee. I want to assign my user account for employee because last time when I given by that time user account creation was disabled. That's why it's not created. Now we are doing it. Let's go for specify the employee name here. What is your employee name? Kiran Kumar is an employee. It's not coming. Maybe that employee's account also is not generated. Okay, no issue. So we'll take a new employee now. Go back to FSM environment, setups environment. Financials. Manage user account. Go to users tab here. The user account is Ramesh. This is the user account we have generated. So last time, because of that setup, it's not generated. Right now, we have enabled user account creation for both persons as well as for party users. Party user means supplier as well as to the customers. I'm going to reset the password for the employee first. Let me reset the password here, because we have to log in with this employee and go for create a supplier, right? So let me reset the password here. Now let's go for edit. Now we want to go for supplier creation. So if you want to create a supplier, we need a role called supplier manager that we have to attach to this user. Go for add role here. Supplier manager. And by default, he is one of the employee. Let's go for attach employee role also. It's not mandatory, but if we want to access the employee information, then we will use this employee role here. So we given the permission for this. Now this employee wants to create a supplier. So when he wants to create a supplier, he has to log out and log into the applications, right? So now we'll go for create a supplier first, log out and log in from the current user. Now Ramesh is going to log in. Go to navigator. We want to go for create a supplier. Here supplier name will be created. Procurement suppliers. Go to task list here. This is the supplier menu to create, manage the suppliers, import the suppliers from legacy systems. In case if we have multiple suppliers, if we want to merge, we can do it from here. Well, now we are going to create a supplier, create supplier. Going to specify IBM Corporation, USA, and business relationship. I'm going to specify this supplier is authorized supplier and it's in a corporation. So it's showing related names. It's not required. We are going to say that it's a corporation, create the supplier. Every company will maintain the supplier information, right? Because they want to buy the goods from that suppliers. Obviously, we need to maintain the suppliers information so that we can communicate with them whenever we need some goods or services related to that. There will be thousands of suppliers for every organization. That's what they'll call it as vendorship. They'll be providing vendorship. When the requirement comes, they'll be sending the information to them through email or any communication channel. So that suppliers will go for respond and they'll try to give the quotations, and then that quotation process will be continued over here. Here, supplier name we have specified, and okay, somebody has mentioned the additional field called knowledge. It's okay. We can choose some value. Go to address, supplier address. Every supplier will have either one branch or multiple branches, right? We call it as address, and we'll make it as a site, right? So I'm going to mention that the address is this. So here we are going to specify the address, then postal code 12200. I'm going to take it. It's nothing but New York postal code. And then I'm going to say that this address is used for ordering as well as for requirement bidding purpose also. So we have created supplier successfully. We have created supplier successfully. We cannot create the supplier site directly. You must be a buyer. Employee cannot create. Showing that address must exist before we create a supplier site. So what we have to do is we have to make this employee is one of the buyer. We have to make this employee is one of the buyer. Then only it will allow us to create a supplier site. Okay. So what we can do is, let me just search for the supplier. This is the supplier name we have created successfully, and we are waiting for approval here. It takes a couple of minutes to get approval. Meanwhile, we are going to make this employee as a buyer. This is our another setup. This is our another setup. How to make an employee as a buyer. Okay. So here, employee, if he is a buyer, then only he can create a supplier site. Supplier, everybody can create, but supplier site, if you want to create a supplier site, you must be a buyer. So who is buyer? Buyer is nothing but an employee who can buy the goods or service from the suppliers. It's very simple setup we have to perform in the setups environment. Let's log out from here. And we have to log in as admin here. If you log in as an admin, then you will be able to perform this particular setup. Go to setup and maintenance here. Financials. I'm going to show you how to make an employee as a buyer. Nothing but a agent. Agent is directly buyer only. Manage procurement agent. Select for which business unit you are going to make this employee as a buyer. For which business unit you are going to make this employee as a buyer. So that we are going to select here. So which business unit we are working? US1 business unit. Select that. And we are going to make this employee as a buyer here. Save and close. Create. So what is employee name? System is going to ask us employee name and business unit. So business unit is US1 business unit. Agent name, nothing but employee name is here. So what is the agent name here? Ramesh Kumar. And this is our business unit. If at all you want to set up any printer, and if you want to enact to this buyer, we can do that. And here are different transactions. We are going to give all the permissions. Save and close. This is how we can perform simple setup. How to make employee as a buyer. How to make employee as a buyer. Now the employee can create supplier sites. Let me just log out. Now Ramesh has got the authority. He is a buyer now. He can create supplier sites. If we want to create a supplier, does not require any buyer authority directly. Any employee can create. But when it comes for supplier site, you must be a buyer. Otherwise, you cannot go for perform this transaction. edit. We have already created supplier. We are going to create supplier site. Go to the tab here, sites, supplier address. Now it is allowing us to create site based on the address. Supplier site will be created here. I'm going to mention that the supplier site belongs to the address whatever we have defined. So supplier site is nothing but a supplier branch. See, address is mandatory. We have already defined the address. I'm going to specify this is New York supplier site, and this I'm using for purchase the goods. It means I can buy the material from IBM New York branch. After purchasing the goods or service from supplier, then I can make the payments also, enable the pay also. Okay, save this. Once the supplier site is created, we can go for associate this supplier site for our business unit. That's what we call it as site assignment. That's what we call it as site assignment. There is a tab here, site assignments. You can use this auto create assignments button, so that what system will do is it will automatically assign this site to the business unit which this employee is working, means this buyer is working. So click this button. Now it's been associated. Go for save and close. It's assigned for US1 business unit. This is how we will go for create supplier site and address successfully here. And we have done this. Next, we are going to add account payables roles. We are going to add this account payables roles over here because we want to raise the invoice for this supplier, right? So let's log into the applications as admin. Go to security console. We added supplier manager role because we want to create supplier that we have completed successfully. Now we are going to work with account payables module next level. That's why we required account payables roles, right? So we are going to add account payables roles here. Let's log out from this employee. We have to log in as admin. Go to navigator here. Tools menu, security console. Go to the tab here, users tab here. We are searching for the user Ramesh. We want to give the permission to work with account payables, right? So go for edit. Go for add role here. For account payables, we have two roles mainly. Accounts payable manager. As I said, for every module, there will be a 4 to 5 roles. We must be very clear about those roles. Accounts payable manager. then accounts payable supervisor role. We have one more role called specialist, accounts payable specialist role. So 3 roles we have for account payables that we have assigned, 3 roles. Whenever we assign the role to the user, what will happen? User can log in and open the pages related to that particular role. But user cannot access the data. We must add that setup also. So what we have done right now, we have added the roles to the user. Role is nothing but a permission to the application. We have to set up the data access also. Data access means for which business unit he can work, that we have to set up. We are working for US1 business unit, right? Go to setups, go to FSM environment. Here we are going to perform these options here. Go to financials, data access. Now data access I'm giving for Mr. Ramesh. When Ramesh log into the applications here, I'm selecting the username as Ramesh. When Ramesh log into the applications and select this particular role, which business unit data we want to give the permission. We can assign either one business unit or multiple business units. For example, manager is there. Manager wants to access multiple business units data. Then what we will do is we'll go for associate with this. Okay, so we can go for duplicate the information here. I'm selecting again same user because we have added 3 roles, right? So we have to go for provide the security context for all the 3 roles. We have already selected accounts payable manager, now specialist. Same business unit here, we are going to have. US1 business unit. Same, we are going for another one. So we provided the data access to the user. Once we provide data access to the user, we must run one program called LDAP process, lightweight directory access protocol. Go to initial users menu. It's a standard program. We have nothing to do. Just we have to select the program name and submit this process. What this program will do is it will synchronize your users information as well as the roles and grants, whatever the data access we have provided, that it's going to synchronize. Okay. Sometimes what happened when you try to run this program, it is showing that error message, 1 or more requests are currently pending. It means already someone has submitted this program. Right now that program is running. Okay. So either you have to wait and again submit, or we don't need to worry about this because this process is already submitted by someone else that will go for issue the commit for even our users as well as the roles information also. Okay, so we don't need to worry about now, just say cancel. Generally, when we are working in the project, this LDAP process will be scheduled. It will be scheduled every 15 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever the duration is required interval. According to that, it will be scheduled so that the moment when we add the data access, that will be updated automatically. Okay, so this is how we are going to perform the setups for our assignment right now. The setups has been completed successfully. So all the setups has been completed successfully. This is our assignment part 1. So setups doing all these things. Is clear, everybody?